get breast implants?
No.
No, you mean that?
No, she didn't. I mean, I would know if she did.
In a 2015 Rolling Stone interview, he repeated his joke that Ivanka was his type, saying, "She's really something." And
comment below right now. Doesn't matter what you say, just say something, because every comment pushes this video in front of someone new, someone who needs to see this. That's how we grow. That's how the truth reaches people. 2 seconds, comment, then let's get back into it.
Donald Trump is panicking as his disastrous war in Iran continues to spiral out of control. And now Donald Trump thinks that if he just throws the special forces at the catastrophic problem he created, that will solve everything. Just send the special forces to go and extract nearly 1,000 pounds of highly enriched uranium. Just put them in a country with 90 million people and see what happens. That's what Donald Trump's apparently planning. Several hundred U.S. Special Operation Forces, including Army Rangers and Navy SEALs, have just arrived in the Middle East, joining thousands of Marines and Army paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division in a deployment meant to give Donald Trump additional options to expand the current month-long disastrous war in Iran, with planning underway for possible ground invasions. This is being reported by the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, reporting how Trump is weighing a military operation with these special forces to extract nearly 1,000 pounds of highly enriched uranium from at least 2 sites in Iran. A very complex and risky mission that would likely put hundreds of American ground forces inside the country for days, if not longer. But all of this would be expected to have this war drag on for months and months and months. While all of this is taking place, as Donald Trump has sent now tens of thousands of additional troops with Marine Expeditionary Units to Iran, with the USS Tripoli arriving there on Friday, Donald Trump called up the Financial Times and gave an interview where he said the following things. "I want to seize all of Iran's oil. To be honest with you," Trump said, "my favorite thing is to take their oil. That's my favorite thing, to take all of the oil of Iran." That's what Donald Trump said. He also said that he's considering taking Karg Island, Iran's main oil export hub. So considering a mission with special forces to extract 1,000 pounds of highly enriched uranium, also taking Karg Island. What could possibly go wrong, everybody?
Let me tell you about a version of Donald Trump that he desperately wants you to forget. Not the current version, not the one standing in the Oval Office, starting wars and calling female journalists fake and telling Dana Perino she looks beautiful instead of answering questions about whether Iranian civilians have food and water. The earlier version, the one who went on Howard Stern's radio show voluntarily, eagerly, repeatedly, more than 30 times between 1993 and 2015. The one who sat in that studio or called in on the phone and said things in front of millions of listeners that revealed exactly who he is. Not as a politician, not as a president, as a man. 15 hours of recorded audio, more than 104,000 words. All of it documented, all of it publicly available, all of it in his own voice. Howard Stern himself once said Trump was his best guest ever. Whenever you put him on the air, he was an open book. He would say anything. There was no filter. No filter. That is the key phrase, because when there is no filter, you find out who someone actually is. And what you find in these tapes, across these 22 years of conversations, is a man who has always treated women as objects to be raided, acquired, used, and discarded on a schedule. A man who said those things publicly, proudly, laughing in front of an audience of millions. And a man who is now running the United States of America and doing the same thing in press conferences and cabinet meetings on Fox News and on Truth Social, with the full power of the presidency behind him. This is the story of the tapes, and this is the story of what the tapes mean in 2026. This channel exists because of people like you. No corporate money, no network. $9 a month keeps independent journalism like this alive. Drop a membership, link in the description. Now let's go through all of it. Let's start in November 1999.
Very clearly, does Melania have cellulite? Now, Melania is one of the greatest bodies I've ever seen.
I've seen it up close.
It's one of the greats.
Yeah.
Does she have... And I said, Melania doesn't even know what the word cellulite means. Now, I said that very clearly. I thought that was wonderful.
Just a throwaway.
One of the newspapers in New York did a whole big story on the fact that Melania doesn't know what cellulite is.
Like she's stupid or
like
something.
she's a dummy,
Oh,
okay?
no.
And this is not a dummy. So I get killed. So almost no matter what you say on the show, when they analyze everything I've said today, I'm sure there are 4 or 5 things where I'm
Here,
dead.
let me word it a different way. Is oral sex important to you?
That was a high-pitched Eric.
Seriously, it's man to man. And I've had this discussion with many men.
No, it's not important to me. By the way,
not.
You had Kylie Bax on this show.
That's a piece of ass I could not
Yeah,
get.
that's right. And she was a friend of mine.
Did you do her? Be
It was
honest.
I don't want to tell you. It was
All right,
the
that's a
single.
yes.
He compares Iran to Venezuela, saying U.S. could control the oil in Iran indefinitely like we're doing in Venezuela. Trump claims Iran has no real defense anymore. I don't think they have any defense. We could take care of it all very easily. It would be done very, very easily. He said that it would require an occupation, but he says he's got the appetite for it. He says it would also mean we'd have to be there for a while. And he says that MAGA supports that. MAGA's happy when Donald Trump goes to war in the Middle East, he claims. Trump claims the scale of bombing is that we've already bombed 13,000 targets. We've got about 3,000 targets left. Well, we've learned that a lot of these targets are targets where Iranian civilians live. Of course, we know about Manab, where there were 165 little girls who were murdered by American tomahawks. But we also talked earlier yesterday about a gym, not the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps facility down the block, but there was a gym in Iran that was attacked by the United States where dozens of people were killed. And we continue to see hundreds, if not thousands, of civilians in Iran killed by the United States and Israel. You also have Donald Trump claiming that regime change has effectively already happened. We've done regime change, he said. And in fact, Trump said the current regime, very reasonable people. Donald Trump says they've agreed to most of his terms with the 15-point conditions that Trump imposed. Very reasonable. Things are going great. And Donald Trump said they gave a great gift that they're allowing 20 Pakistani ships to go through the Strait of Hormuz, which Trump says is a gift to Donald Trump. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It's 2 ships a day. The escort for it is not the United States Navy. It's the Iranian Navy. It has nothing to do with Trump. Iran's President Pezeshkian and others are saying. But Donald Trump says, look what I got. You got what? Iran controlling the Strait of Hormuz? I mean, Marco Rubio at the G7 meeting in France on Friday told all of our allies that the likely outcome is going to be that the world's going to now have to pay a toll to Iran. Also, Iran's Speaker of their parliament posted that must be 6-dimensional chess being played by Donald Trump, whereas before the war, Iran didn't control the Strait of Hormuz, and now they control it and impose fees on their allies to utilize it.
Donald Trump is calling into the Howard Stern show to promote a boxing match at his Taj Mahal casino. It's a friendly chat. Trump is comfortable. He's been doing this for years. At some point, Stern turns to the subject of Trump's girlfriend, Melania Knauss, a 29-year-old Slovenian model, the woman who will eventually become First Lady of the United States twice. Stern doesn't ask Trump if she can come on. He demands it. According to transcripts of the audio, Stern says, "Let me talk to that broad in your bed." And Trump puts her on the phone. Let me say that again. Stern calls the future First Lady of the United States that broad in your bed. And rather than saying anything in her defense, rather than ending the call, rather than expressing the most basic form of dignity for the woman he was with, Donald Trump hands over the phone. Stern then interrogates Melania about what she's wearing, what outfit she would put on for him. He asks explicit questions about her sex life with Trump. He asks how often they have sex. She says, in her own words, on the air, because her boyfriend handed her over, that they have incredible sex once a day, sometimes even more. Then someone in Stern's studio performed a fake impression of Melania having sex with Trump, and Trump laughed. Then Stern begged Trump, right there on the air, to have sex with Melania for the show's ratings. And Trump's response was, wouldn't that be nice? When Trump got back on the phone after Melania stepped away, Stern said, "Oh man, she's naked there, isn't she?" And Trump said, "She is actually naked. It's a thing of beauty."
Your daughter.
She's beautiful.
Can I say this? A piece of
Yeah.
The last couple of years, I go out with somebody, and she's like 21, and she's talking about, what are you doing? And she's studying algebra. And
so what?
And it's like, it was always embarrassing for me to walk in. It's too young. 30 is like a perfect age.
Absolutely. She has enough life experience.
Until she's 35.
Too much life experience.
What is it at 35, Howard? It's called checkout time.
And Iran's like, great six-dimensional chess, Donald Trump. Also, the speaker of the Iranian parliament warned everybody before the futures markets opened, which, by the way, those future markets were tanking while the price of oil futures was surging. All the Iranian leadership is now saying Donald Trump's going to try to manipulate the market. We're not talking to him. We haven't agreed to the 15-point plan. All Iran said is that they have their preconditions to negotiations, that the United States must pay reparations. There must be security guarantees that the United States won't strike Iran ever again with Israel, that Hezbollah won't be hit ever again by the United States and Israel, that Iran's proxy groups like the Shiite militias in Iraq won't ever be hit again, that the Houthis won't be hit ever again, that there will be, in addition to these security guarantees, full reparations, that Iran will never give up its ballistic missiles. Iran would like to continue now enriching uranium in the future because they said, why would we agree to any negotiations when that will just result in invasions of Iran? And then Iran continues to say that they also demand public apologies as well. And unless those things are met, also the removal of U.S. military bases in the region. And Iran says if those preconditions are met, we're not even talking to you. So there's nothing to talk about unless you agree with all of that.
That is the sitting president of the United States talking about his girlfriend on live national radio while she was listening, while millions of people were listening. And his response was, it's a thing of beauty. Melania later said she didn't want him doing those interviews. She said on CNN after the Access Hollywood tape scandal, I didn't agree to do all the tapes on Howard Stern because I know those people. They hook him on, they try to get from him some inappropriate and dirty language. She knew. She warned him. He did it anyway, repeatedly, for 22 years. Before I keep going, I need you to do one thing. Drop a comment below right now. Anything. Your reaction. Your thoughts. One word even. Because here's how this works. Every comment tells YouTube this video matters. YouTube then shows it to more people. More people means more Americans who actually know what's going on. You watching this isn't enough. You engaging with it is what spreads it. So comment right now, then let's keep going. The 1999 call was not the end. It was not even close to the worst of it. Let's go through what else is in this archive, because it builds a picture. And the picture is important. Let's talk about what Trump said about women's ages. In an interview in 2002, when Melania was 30 years old, Stern and Trump discussed the age at which a man stops being interested in his partner. Stern asked the question, and Trump answered it straight. What is it at 35, Howard? Trump said on air. It's called checkout time. Checkout time. At 35. His wife at the time was 30. He was making clear, publicly on national radio laughing, that a woman past 35 was someone you checked out on.
And you're probably, I would say, the greatest judge of beauty on this planet. In fact,
and by his own admission, he was no stranger backstage while owning parts of 3 different pageants for nearly 2 decades.
I would create a TV show for you where all you did was just judge women.
No, they're standing there with no...
No, I mean, some of these foreign girls, Mr. Trump, in my country, we say hello with...
And, well, you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
like
everything is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible-looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like...
Then Donald Trump describes the new leadership as a totally different group of people. Very, very professional group of people. Now, that group of people continues to mock Donald Trump, call him the Epstein class murderer. They continue to strike their neighboring Arab nations where there are American military interests. For example, last night, there was at least 1 killed and severe damage caused following an Iranian attack on a service building at a Kuwaiti power and water desalination station, according to Kuwait's Ministry of Energy. Specifically, it's this right here. You can see this service building at a power station and distillation facility right here. Also, we saw attacks on all of the neighbors. Bahrain was hit again hard. Iranian proxy groups, these Shiite militias that have been given the green light by the Iraqi government. The war is fully spread to Iraq now. They've successfully been targeting military bases in Iraq, where there's been weapons shared by the United States to the Iraqi government. You can see right here the Iran-backed militias targeting a military transport plane that belongs to the Iraqi Air Force in Baghdad International Airport. Look right here at this 32B, and a 32B military transport aircraft was targeted by an Iranian-backed militant group using drones and rockets. They use these drone swarms, FPV drone swarms, very, very effectively. Look at this image. You can see the damage that was caused to this Iraqi 32B military transport aircraft vehicle. In addition, you can see the smoke rising in the UAE. We had Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah, other areas where Iran was conducting large-scale attacks. The Houthis continued to attack Israel. Iran continued to attack Israel. And Iran said that here are the targets we're going to hit, and they've been going after them. What else has Donald Trump been saying? Donald Trump says on Iran, I think that they really want a deal. They're practically begging. Anyone who is being destroyed would want one, right? Then Donald Trump told N14, which is a news channel in Israel. Donald Trump goes, I love Israel. I love the people of Israel. I'm very proud and happy with their support. Then Channel 12 in Israel reported that if U.S. launches a ground operation in Iran, Israeli troops will not take part in any way in the combat.
Then in a separate conversation, when Stern asked him point blank in 2006 whether Trump could still be banging 24-year-olds, Trump answered without hesitation, oh, absolutely, I have no trouble. Stern pressed, would you do it? And Trump said, I have no problem. Then co-host Robin Quivers asked, do you have an age limit? Trump started to answer, no, I have no age. Then he caught himself. Then he backtracked. His exact words, I mean, I have age. I don't want to be like Congressman Foley with, 12-year-olds. He stopped himself from endorsing sexual interest in children. He mentioned it. He self-corrected. And he and Stern laughed and moved on. That is in the tapes. Documented. Verified. His own voice. Now let's talk about Ivanka, because there are multiple moments in this archive involving Trump's daughter that are deeply disturbing and that every American should know about. In September 2004, Trump and Stern were bantering on air. Stern asked Trump, your daughter, can I say this, a piece of ass? And Trump said, yeah. He agreed, his daughter. He agreed that she was a piece of ass. He then added that Stern would be the last person I would introduce her to, but he had already agreed with the characterization.
As Ivanka Trump grew older, Donald Trump made odd remarks about her beauty and physique. During a 2006 appearance on The View, he commented on the topic of her posing nude for Playboy.
I don't think Ivanka would do that inside the magazine, although she does have a very nice figure.
He also engaged in several conversations about his daughter's looks on Howard Stern's syndicated radio show, beginning in 2004.
By the way, your daughter.
She's beautiful.
Can I say this? A piece of ass.
Yeah.
Boy, I would back up the Brinks truck. Introduce me to her.
In a 2006 appearance, he also responded to a curious question Stern had about Ivanka.
Did your daughter get breast implants?
No.
No, you mean that?
No, she didn't. I mean, I would know if she did.
In a 2015 Rolling Stone interview, he repeated his joke that Ivanka was his type, saying, she's really something, and what a beauty that one. If I weren't happily married and, her father.
I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.
Oh, it's so weird.
I see. So you treat women with respect?
I can't say that either.
All right, good, all right. Somewhere in between.
I do. I treat women with great respect.
Treat women somewhere in between respect and doo-doo. All right, very good. Now, let's get to the women. Let's see pictures. That's what I'm into, okay? Number one, let's get to, here's a woman that you are associated with. Her name is Frederique. She is a lingerie model. Wow. This is a girl who is your girlfriend now.
Well, she's a really good friend, and she's a great woman, and she's going to be very successful as time goes by in terms of other things. But right now, she's one of the most successful models. She works for Victoria's Secret.
I would do the Heine dance for her. How did you meet this beautiful woman?
I don't even know. I mean, just
Did you go through the catalog and pick? Said, got him, need him, got him?
No, but when I found out who she was, I got the catalog and checked it out.
You did?
She's really beautiful.
And you called her on the phone and said, I would like to meet with you?
Well, it just worked out that I got to meet her. And
regarding a invasion to control the Strait of Hormuz, Donald Trump said, we're already doing it. It's already underway. It's already happening. No, it's not already happening. There's nothing yet. As I said, he is marshaling these special forces and Marine expeditionary units in the 82nd Airborne Division, elite paratroopers and others. But that's about that's what we know for sure is happening right now. Meanwhile, U.S. government officials and Wall Street analysts are starting to consider the prospect that oil prices might surge to an unprecedented $200 a barrel level. Right now, the Brent crude market opened at $115 a barrel. WTI crude was over $100 a barrel. The futures markets were tanking. Donald Trump's attempt to manipulate the market were failing. And again, you had all of the Iranian leadership making posts saying, we're not doing negotiations. He's going to try to manipulate the market. Don't believe anything he's saying. We're going to make sure that the pain that's felt by the United States is over $200 a barrel. Iran is acutely aware of the crisis, the catastrophe that Donald Trump has put the United States in. They understand that in a war of attrition, they can drag this out as long as they want and cause major catastrophic pain to the United States economy. And that's precisely what they're doing. But this weekend, Trump was out golfing again. Right. We learned that his second term golf tab has already exceeded $100 million to taxpayers. I believe it's actually significantly more than that. And you know, right, that 2 weeks ago, the debt in the United States crossed that $39 trillion threshold, and that'll be at $40 trillion in no time. I mean, the cost of this war, hundreds of billions of dollars, and we've already lost tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in weapons already. You have the Iranian military chief spokesperson also saying that the Iranian strikes will now target U.S.-Israeli residential areas, homes of U.S. and Israeli commanders, and hotels where they're staying. It said the directive is in response to the hostile and terrorist actions targeting Iranian civilians across multiple cities. And we also know that the United States and Israel were able to target Tehran University and blow up some of its science centers and other areas.
In an October 2006 interview, Stern remarked that Ivanka looks more voluptuous than ever and asked whether she had gotten breast implants. Trump responded by discussing his daughter's body in explicit detail. He said she was actually always been very voluptuous. He said she was an amazing beauty. He was speaking about his daughter's physique on a radio show known for sexual content. And then, across multiple interviews, Trump stated on air that if Ivanka were not his daughter, he would date her. He said this more than once. He said it in 2006. He said it to Stern, on the record, in his own voice. If Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. That is a direct quote. This is the man who presents himself as the defender of American family values. This is the man who claims he loves and respects women. This is the man who is currently president of the United States with the power to surveil journalists, threaten broadcast licenses, and cancel television shows hosted by people who criticize him. He said this about his daughter on the radio, laughing. Now let's talk about Melania's pregnancy. In 2005, Melania Trump was 5 months pregnant with Barron, their son. Trump called into Stern's show. And when the conversation turned to Melania's changing body, Trump described his pregnant wife, 5 months along with his child, as a blimp. His word, blimp. Then he went on, at length, to discuss what happened to women's bodies during and after pregnancy. According to transcripts, he said, "I've known many, many pregnant women, and I've seen them all types. I've seen beautiful women that for the rest of their lives have become horror." He talked about women who gained like 250 pounds and called it a disaster.
You talk about trauma, and you've talked about it in relationship to President Trump.
Yeah.
That Donald Trump is a person who experienced a lot of trauma early on.
Yeah, from what I know of Donald and his relationship with his father, it sounds traumatic. It sounds like the father was very domineering. The father expected a lot of him. And the father, I don't know, there was military school. You know, you read these drips and drabs, and you go, wow, I can assure you he's been traumatized. Because, you know, Donald, you know, his level of narcissism is so strong. He has trouble with empathy. We know that. And I wish he'd go into psychotherapy. I'd be so proud of him if he did. He would flourish.
But he never has. I mean, he never would.
There's no way. I do not believe he's ever done psychotherapy.
I was saying to myself, what the fuck is he going to say? I thought he hit the right tone. I thought it was beautiful.
My boyhood idols, Howard Stern and David Letterman, were very considerate. I feel honored to be part of a group of people that knows what goes into doing a show like this. This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this.
Right. Imagine the pressure. I mean, he had to come out and be the face of free speech. Plus, he's representing Disney. And plus, he's supposed to be fucking funny.
Yeah.
That's an impossible task. It is not easy.
Look, I never imagined I would be in a situation like this. I barely paid attention in school. But one thing I did learn from Lenny Bruce and George Carlin and Howard Stern is that a government threat to silence a comedian the president doesn't like is anti-American. That's anti-American.
Well done, Jimmy. You did a great job. Very, very good.
We have lots of sources on the ground in Iran, and as we always do throughout the world right now. And just from what we're hearing, there was just an overwhelming amount of military force used by U.S. and Israel all throughout the night. I know a petrochemical plant in Iran was targeted, and lots of civilian areas continue to be hit. Iran keeps making these like Lego mocking AI videos about Donald Trump. Like they made this video right here, where they show Donald Trump holding the U.S. E-3G AWACS reconnaissance aircraft, which was the crown jewel of our Air Force. It was destroyed in a military base in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. At first, the Trump regime was like, it sustained minor damage. No, it was completely damaged as long as the KC-135 Strato tankers. And as part of the video they said like for loser, and they put like a gurney and said for loser. They've got, Donald Trump with, the hands that are rotting away, and they show Donald Trump panicking in their animation that they're making right there. Donald Trump's post was a big day in Iran. Many long sought after targets have been taken out and destroyed by our great military, the finest and most lethal in the world. God bless you all, DJT. And then Donald Trump gave this catastrophic press conference aboard Air Force One, where Donald Trump said, so when he tries to manipulate the market, but it was really not working at all. I mean, crude oil prices dropped like $1 for a short period of time because the markets know that Donald Trump's jawboning is just that, jawboning, utter BS. Donald Trump was holding a photo of his golden ballroom. And while he was talking about the golden ballroom, that's what he really wanted to talk about. He's like, I think we'll do a deal this week with Iran. I see a deal coming. It's the normal stuff that he does to manipulate the markets. Here, play this clip.
White House, which is, I think, very important.
Mr. President, deal in Iran this upcoming week.
Say it?
Sir, could you foresee a deal in Iran this upcoming week?
I do see a deal in Iran, yeah.
Mr. President,
could be soon.
Are you considering...
Then a reporter asked Donald Trump about the 15-point plan that was made to Iran. And they're like, will they come back with a response? And Donald Trump's like, they gave us most of the points. And in fact, the present that they gave us is they allowed these 20 boats to be guided by the United States Navy through the Strait of Hormuz. And then, the headlines from American corporate news was like, 20 large oil tankers to transit Strait of Hormuz under U.S. escort starting tomorrow morning. It got community noted right away. The 20 tankers are Pakistani flagged vessels allowed by Iran to transit the Strait of Hormuz under Iranian escort, not U.S. escort as claimed. No U.S. Navy escorts of tankers are scheduled to begin.
He said it had been a very tough life for them. He was talking about other women, but he had just called his own pregnant wife a blimp, while she was 5 months pregnant with their son. On national radio, in his own voice, these are not rumors. These are not opposition research. These are recordings of Donald Trump in his own voice talking about the woman he was married to, describing her pregnant body as a blimp. Now let's talk about the Miss Universe contestants, because what Trump said on Stern's show about his role as the owner of the Miss Universe pageant, the same pageant where young women competed for a title and a career, is among the most disturbing material in the entire archive. In 2005, Trump told Stern that one of the perks of owning the Miss Universe organization was that he could walk into the dressing room whenever the contestants were changing clothes. He said the contestants were often undressed when he walked in. He described walking in on naked and semi-naked women who had no idea he was coming, who could not say no because he owned the pageant, and described it casually as a benefit of ownership. According to CNN's review of the tapes, Trump said, "I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. Is everyone okay? You know, they're standing there with no clothes, and you see these incredible-looking women, and so I sort of get away with things like that." He said, "I sort of get away with things like that on the radio, voluntarily," laughing. Dozens of former Miss USA and Miss Teen USA contestants have since given accounts in the same direction, that Trump walked in on them while they were changing, without warning or consent. Some were minors at the time of the Miss Teen USA pageant. This is not contested. Trump dismissed all of it as locker room talk, the same phrase he used after the Access Hollywood tape. Now let's talk about STDs. This is one of the most famous lines from the entire Stern archive, and it deserves to be said out loud clearly, because it tells you something specific about this man's psychology. Trump told Stern, in their discussions about his active dating life in the 1990s before he married Melania, that he considered avoiding sexually transmitted diseases his personal Vietnam. His exact words, "It was like Vietnam. This was not a slip." It was not taken out of context. Even Howard Stern himself said in 2019 that he felt the quote was somewhat unfair when taken out of context, but Stern also confirmed it was real. He said it was in a very joking scenario. But here is the thing about that. Trump said it. He said it as a joke, on national radio, as a bragging comparison between his sexual history and the military service of the men and women who fought and died in Vietnam. There are currently 13 American service members confirmed dead in Operation Epic Fury, the war in Iran, more than 310 wounded, and the man who sent them there is the same man who told Howard Stern that dodging STDs was his personal Vietnam. That is not a metaphor. That is a direct statement of values. Now let's talk about the pattern, because all of these individual moments, the Melania call, the Ivanka comments, the pregnant wife called a blimp, the Miss Universe dressing rooms, checkout time at 35, they are not random. They are a pattern. And the pattern has continued into his presidency. Look at how Trump treats women today, in 2026, in real time. Dana Perino, a Fox News host, a conservative, one of his own network's anchors, asked him a straightforward humanitarian question about whether Iranian civilians had food and water. And instead of answering, Trump told her how beautiful she looked. He said commenting on her appearance could end his political career. He said it and laughed. Dana Perino said, "Hair and makeup has a lot to do with that," to redirect. He kept going. That is the same dynamic as the Stern Show. A woman asks a real question. Trump turns it into a comment about her appearance. He makes her looks the subject instead of the substance. He has been doing this for 30 years. Jessica Tarloff reports his actual polling numbers. He calls her fake. He tells Fox News she should be fired. He asks the panel, "Did she not want to do it, or did you kick her off the show?" He obsesses about an absent woman. He cannot help himself, because in his worldview, documented across 15 hours of Stern recordings, a woman who reports facts he doesn't like is not doing journalism. She is being insubordinate. And insubordination from a woman is something he has never, in 30 years of public life, been able to tolerate. CNN's Caitlin Collins, a radical left lunatic. ABC's Rachel Scott, the most obnoxious reporter in the whole place. New York Times reporter Katie Rogers, ugly, both inside and out. Bloomberg's Catherine Lucy, while she was asking a question, "Quiet, piggy, this is the president." This is how he talks to women who ask him questions he doesn't like. And it is not new. The Stern archive proves it is not new. It is who he has always been. It is who he is. Now let's talk about the Epstein connection, because the Stern tapes don't exist in isolation. They exist alongside everything else we know about this man and his documented relationships with the world he inhabited. The New Republic reported in July 2025 that the first time Trump slept with Melania was reportedly aboard Jeffrey Epstein's plane, the same plane nicknamed the Lolita Express. Trump and Epstein were close friends for years. Before his death, Epstein described Trump as one of his closest friends.
You know, Whoopi Goldberg said, "Would you participate in a movie?" She made some movie on basketball. This was before I ran for politics. She said, "Oh, you're so great. If you ever ran for president, you'd win." This is Whoopi Goldberg. You don't hear that? She said, I'm making a movie. Would you be in it? I said, in what capacity? Just a walk-on. You're so great. Would you do I did a walk-on for Whoopi Goldberg. Now she says, I refuse to mention his name. You know what? Politics can do strange things to demented people. No, I've hired Whoopi to work for me as a comedian before this stuff, and a long time ago. And I went, and, you know, I'm not particularly shy about what I hear. Her mouth was so foul, every word out of her mouth was like the F word, that this. I was with a group of people, like sort of nice people, and we had to leave. She was so filthy dirty, disgusting, half the place left. I said I'd never hire her again, but she was so dirty, every word was filthy dirty, and I left. And then I see her sitting about, oh, Whoopi, oh, what a loser she is. But I watched the way they ask questions, and it's like, you know, they're on the same, like they're partners in this crime that's being committed. Kamala again.
March 31st. Here's a video of Donald Trump lying about it. Play this clip.
He's seriously wounded.
You had offered a 15-point plan to Iran. Did they ever come back?
Yeah, they came back on the 15-point plan. They gave us most of the points. Why wouldn't they?
And you make it sound like they've made some concessions. Can you identify those?
Well, they're agreeing with us on the plan. I mean, we asked for 15 things, and for the most part, we're going to be asking for a couple of other things. And just to prove that they're serious, they gave us all these votes. When I talked about 4 days ago, a present, I said they gave me a present, but I didn't think I was at liberty to say what it was. What it was 8 plus 2. It's 10 massive boatloads of oil. And today they gave us another present. They gave us 20 boatloads of oil. That starts being shipped tomorrow. We're having very good meetings, both directly and indirectly, and I think we're getting a lot of very important points.
Sir, were you caught off guard?
And then Donald Trump was saying, we did regime change. We got the regime that we wanted. Everybody as part of this regime is very reasonable. They're good people, actually. They're good people. We like working with them. Here, play this clip.
But we've had regime change, if you look already, because the one regime was decimated, destroyed. They're all dead. The next regime is mostly dead. And the third regime, we're dealing with different people than anybody's dealt with before. It's a whole different group of people. So I would consider that regime change. And frankly, they've been very reasonable. So I think we've had regime change. I mean, you can't do much better than that. The regime that was really bad, really evil was the first one. That was done. The second was appointed, and they're gone. They're all dead, other than one who may have a little life in them. And then they're really in the third group. And the third group of people that seem to be much more reasonable. It truly is regime change. And regime change is an imperative, but I think we have it automatically. I did something today.
Now, going back to Trump's special forces invasion, as open source intelligence defender writes, any move to seize the uranium by force would be complex and dangerous. Former U.S. military officers and experts said, ranking among the most challenging operations ordered by Donald Trump. The potential operation, which would likely trigger retaliation from Iran, could also lengthen the war well beyond the 4 to 6 week timeframe that Trump's team has publicly outlined. Teams of U.S. forces would need to fly to the sites, likely under fire from Iranian surface-to-air missiles and drones. Once on site, combat troops would need to secure perimeters so that engineers with excavating equipment could search through debris and check for the mimes and booby traps. The extraction of the material would likely need to be conducted by an elite special operations team, specially trained to remove radioactive material from a conflict zone. The highly enriched uranium is likely contained in 40 to 50 special cylinders that resemble scuba tanks. They would need to be put into transportation casks to protect against accidents. That could fill several trucks, said Richard Nephew, a senior research scholar at Columbia University and former nuclear negotiator with Iran. Unless an airfield was available, a makeshift one would need to be set up to bring equipment in and take the nuclear material out. The entire operation would take days or even a week to complete, experts say. And yes, so as 50,000 Americans are deployed to war, now those special forces, as oil's over $100 a barrel. In fact, Brent is over $114 per barrel. Costs spiraling out of control. Americans can't afford anything. We are facing not just a recession, but potentially a Great Depression here in the United States. Our airports are an absolute mess, as Jon Favreau says. This is what Donald Trump wanted everybody to know. Here, play this clip.
They were photographed together multiple times. Trump threw Epstein a party. Trump is reported to have written Epstein a letter for his 50th birthday. And on Howard Stern's show, the same forum where Trump discussed walking into dressing rooms of naked women, where he rated women's bodies on air, where he said checkout time comes at 35, Trump also confirmed on more than one occasion that he had banged some of the greatest beauties on the planet. His words. True, some of the greats in history. These are the circles this man inhabited. These are the things he said publicly. And these are the files that Pam Bondi has been covering up at the Department of Justice. The same Epstein files that contain more than 1 million references to Don, Donald, and Trump, according to Representative Jamie Raskin's review of the unredacted documents. The Stern tapes are not separate from the Epstein story. They are the same story. They are the same man, talking about women in the same way, on the same radio show, for 22 years. Now let's talk about what happened when Stern turned on Trump. Because Trump's reaction to losing the friendship of his former radio partner reveals something important. After Trump announced his 2016 presidential campaign, Stern, who had been one of Trump's closest media allies for 2 decades, declined to speak at the Republican National Convention. He had been asked. He said no. He explained later that he was supporting Hillary Clinton. Trump has never forgiven him. In September 2023, Trump went on Truth Social and called Stern weak, pathetic, and disloyal. He said Stern had lost his friends and much of his audience. He said Stern had gone woke. He said his influence is gone, and without that, he's got nothing. Just a broken weirdo, unattractive both inside and out, trying like hell to be relevant. Then in October 2024, after Stern interviewed Kamala Harris on his Sirius XM show, Trump posted, "Beta male Howard Stern made a fool of himself on his low-rated radio show when he interviewed Lion Kamala Harris and hit her with so many softball questions that even she was embarrassed." Beta male, from the man who bragged on that same radio show about walking into dressing rooms of naked women without their consent. From the man who called his pregnant wife a blimp. From the man who agreed that his own daughter was a piece of ass. He is calling Howard Stern a beta male. The psychology here is not complicated. In Trump's worldview, loyalty is the only virtue.
But do you feel that in some way you helped make him president?
Absolutely. Because Donald would come on my show. I mean, look.
Does it make you feel bad or good?
Well, look, I did not vote for Donald Trump. I go into great lengths in this book, and I think people will be interested in this. Hillary Clinton, you know, like in Moby Dick, I was chasing her. She was my obsession. I wanted to see Hillary Clinton win. And I thought if she had come on the show, the way I helped Donald was I let him come on and be a personality. Whether you liked him or not, people related to him as a human being. I wanted to do that for Hillary. The big knock against Hillary, especially with some of the male audience, was Donald Trump would come on my show, and this is why he was great. There was no filter. I go, Donald, Angelina Jolie, she's one of the most beautiful actresses in the world. She's a 6, you know. Now, who says that? You know, most people, if they're having that thought, keep that pretty guarded. Not Donald. He was right into it. Ivanka Trump.
You know who's one of the great beauties of the world, according to everybody, and I helped create her? Who? Ivanka.
Most beautiful girl in the world. You know, I would marry her. These types of things, most people, certainly politicians, don't say.
Well, no question about it.
And that porch will be magnificent, looking in between the columns. They no longer, we took the stairs out that were on the south side and really replaced them with these stairs. So you have an open porch and you have the closed porch under the columns, overlooking the Washington Monument, the Jefferson Memorial, and the Lincoln Memorial / Monument. So that's great. This is a view of the columns as they are going to be made. They're going to be hand carved and they're beautiful. Top of the line, there'll be Corinthian, which is considered the best, most beautiful by far.
Also, should be noted that the U.S. universities in Qatar have shut down their campuses the same way the U.S. has shut down its military bases in the region, 13 military bases. Universities shut down after the U.S. hit Iranian universities. Iran said we're going to hit their universities. I'll just right-wing, far right-wing individual Ann Coulter posted the following: watching Fox News assure viewers the Iran war is going super well and Trump is a total stud is like watching the same network assure viewers that Dominion voting system rigged the 2020 election and Trump was the winner. And folks, I am so grateful for all of your feedback about our reporting here, right? We really try to dig in to the things that are not being talked about anywhere else on corporate news to give you a true picture of what's happening. You may not like what I'm saying, but I'm giving you the objective data of what is on the ground every single damn day. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, all right? You may think you're subscribed, but you may not actually be subscribed. So turn notifications on, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You could subscribe to Scott McFarlane's YouTube channel while you're at it. It's called Scott McFarlane News. How great is it bringing him to the Midas Touch Network? Thank you all so much. We appreciate your support as always.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the Midas Touch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.
Stern was loyal for 20 years, then he wasn't. So now Stern is weak, pathetic, and disloyal, and unattractive both inside and out. He uses the same language for Stern that he uses for every woman he dismisses. Ugly, weak, low ratings, not talented, getting fired, because to Donald Trump, loyalty and appearance are the only things that matter. Not truth, not competence, not integrity. Loyalty and appearance. This is documented. This is in his own voice. Across 15 hours of tape. Then in August 2025, rumors started swirling that Stern was leaving SiriusXM. His contract was reportedly up. An anonymous source claimed the network and Stern were parting ways. Trump was asked about it by a reporter at the White House. His response, Howard Stern. It's a name I haven't heard. I used to do his show, used to have fun, but I haven't heard that name in a long time. What happened? He got terminated? He pretended not to know who Howard Stern was. The man he did 30-plus interviews with over 22 years, the man who was at his wedding, the man he had dinner with at Mar-a-Lago multiple times, the man he called one of the great interviewers in the country, right up until Stern stopped being loyal to him. It's a name I haven't heard. That was a lie, told in public, casually, because that is how Donald Trump operates. If you are no longer useful to him, you never existed. Now let's connect all of this to today, to 2026, to this presidency. Because the Stern tapes are not ancient history. They are the operating manual for how this man exercises power. He is currently in the middle of a war that has killed 13 American service members and wounded more than 310. The same war he started while his approval rating on handling the economy was at 29%, lower than Biden's worst day. The same war that has raised gas prices by over $1 per gallon. The same war he claimed was based on a feeling based on a fact, as his own press secretary put it. He is currently calling female journalists fake, ugly, stupid, and requesting they be fired from their jobs, just as he dismissed women on The Stern Show, just as he used women's appearances as weapons when they said things he didn't want to hear. He is currently overseeing the Department of Justice's suppression of the Epstein files.
Howard Stern, he's a weak guy. He's weak. He's going, what about, It was so ridiculous. Even she was embarrassed. It was like softball. But all of them. Howard, I knew him very well. I was on the show many times. I used to think he was good. Then I dropped him. And I dropped him like a dog. And his ratings are very challenged. Very challenged. But I watched the questions. I watched that stupid View where you have these really dumb people.
Files that mention his name more than 1 million times, while his Attorney General Pam Bondi has been accused of perjury for saying under oath that there is no evidence Donald Trump has committed a crime. He is the man who told Howard Stern that STDs were his personal Vietnam. He is sending other people's children to a real war in the Middle East, while calling questions about it stupid. He is the man who walked into dressing rooms full of undressed women because he owned the pageant and could get away with it. He is now the man who says he can do whatever he wants because he owns the government. These are not separate things. This is one man across 30 years of documented behavior, in his own voice, on tape. And I have to ask you directly, because I genuinely want to know what you think. When you hear these tapes, when you hear this man in his own voice across 22 years of recordings, does it change how you understand who he is? Or does it confirm what you already knew? Comment below. I'm reading every single one. Here's the bottom line. The Howard Stern archive is not embarrassing old material that no longer matters. It is a 15-hour document of exactly who Donald Trump has always been, in his own voice, without a filter. He has always treated women as property to be acquired at the right price. His own words.